Happy Easter to those who celebrate. I'm going over to my grandmother's house, so I'm wearing my Sunday best New York Knicks hat and WCW NWO Revenge t-shirt, just in case she wants to take some Easter pictures. But we're not here to talk about my Easter plans. We're not here to talk about the Knicks winning Game 1 against the Pistons. We're here to talk about something involving the Nintendo Switch 2, because honestly, there's been lots of very rightful controversy surrounding this system. And whether you're talking about the raising of accessory prices, which I still think is ridiculous because accessories have a very high markup to begin with. You're making money on those. Whether we're talking about the $80 price point of Mario Kart World, there has been a little bit more hesitation with the Nintendo Switch 2 and its unveiling than I think people initially thought it was going to be. But there's one aspect about the Switch 2 that's definitely growing on me. And I actually think that this is a really good idea, and I don't feel like people are giving this enough credit because they're not looking like deep enough into it. And I'm not someone who has a prime essence to defend everything Nintendo does, but I think this is a brilliant idea. And I, of course, am talking about the digital game cards, because when these were first announced, everyone was like, what the hell is this? What do you mean? What do you mean a digital game card? And Nintendo was throwing out so much stuff all at one time with the Switch 2 during the presentation that you couldn't really absorb everything in a way that you would really fully want to be able to absorb it, to kind of understand like how this was different and what made this different. Because many people initially just looked at this from the perspective of, oh, well, this is just a way for companies, specifically third-party companies, to cheap out on putting their games onto the Nintendo Switch 2 with some stupid digital cartridge that's essentially the same as a digital download. And honestly, that was kind of my first impression of it, was that, well, why would I buy this instead of just a digital download? Like, that doesn't make much sense to me from the consumer standpoint. But like I said, the more I think about this, the more I realize that this is actually a good thing. And I know there'll be people that disagree with me on that, and that is fine. But I want to look at kind of how I came to this conclusion. First and foremost, let's look at the size of Switch 2 games. The biggest cartridge is going to be a 64 gigabyte cartridge. Now, if you have an Xbox, you have a PlayStation 5, you would know that there are many games, tons of games, that are well over 100 gigs when it comes to the size of the game. So that would mean that, you know, a one-to-one replication wouldn't fit on the Switch 2. Now, of course, companies could do things like optimize it. They could compress stuff, you know, and people are quick to say, well, why are some games a digital game cartridge, but other games are on the full cartridge? A game like Cyberpunk 2077 is on a 64 gigabyte cartridge, but a game like Bravely Default or even Street Fighter is not on a cartridge. It is a digital download only. And I think that is just a way for third-party companies to put their games onto the platform. Most importantly speaking, Nintendo has some sort of agreement with CD Projekt Red. If you go back to The Witcher 3 on the original Nintendo Switch, that whole game was on a 32 gigabyte cartridge because Nintendo subsidized some of the cost of that cartridge. You got to remember, these cartridges cost money. Like, they cost money for the companies in order to be able to put their games onto it. Not as drastic as like the N64 was, but you could kind of make a few parallels here and there. Many people seem to forget that the N64, when it came to third-party games, companies would have to pay Nintendo to get the cartridge to put their game onto the cartridge, and that's why third-party carts on the N64 were usually $20 or $30 more than the first-party games, because that's what the companies were having to pay just to put it on the cartridge itself. Obviously, game distribution has changed dramatically since then, but I like the digital game card in this instance because it does give you a level of ownership that you don't really have with just a strictly digital game. I know there's people, I only play physical games. Where's the physical games? And like, you know what? If this was like 10 years ago, sure, you might have a case. You might have a case. But unfortunately, the world is constantly turning. The world is constantly shifting. And because of that, the distribution, the large game sizes, things are going to change. And at some point in time, you're either going to have to tell yourself, well, I'm just not going to play any new games because of the lack of digital distribution, or or the lack of physical distribution, I should say, or you could like be normal and be like, you know what? I really want to play this game. And yeah, maybe, I can't sell this downloaded copy to recoup some money, but at least I could play it now and enjoy it. With the digital game card, you pop that sucker into your Switch 2. It then lets you access the game on the Switch 2, but you could still sell that digital game cartridge and make money off of it. I think that is a brilliant way of ownership for these games that maybe otherwise would not have came to the system, because Nintendo is going to put their time and effort into heavily optimizing their games. Third-party companies aren't going to do that because they're putting these games across a litany of different platforms. When you talk about things like, well, why are they using a 64 gigabyte cartridge? They should use something else. It still wouldn't really matter. First and foremost, you're not going to use a Blu-ray on a handheld device. Think of every handheld gaming device. None of them had discs except for the UMD on the PSP, and that was a proprietary disc. That was not a stand. The only thing that used UMDs were the PSPs, and they had like that weird casing because of you move, and then the disc skips. Like there's a reason why they prioritize cartridges for things that have a handheld platform. But even extending beyond that, this isn't exactly a new uncharted territory, because there are several PlayStation and Xbox games that you get the 100 gig Blu-ray, because that is the maximum size of a Blu-ray, and you still have to download stuff. You're not getting the whole game experience. Indiana Jones and the Circle of Doom, which just came out on PlayStation 5, if you buy that PlayStation 5 version of the game, you have to download most of the game. Most of the game is not on that disc. And like, it's something that's been going on for a very long time. Even going back to the original Nintendo Switch, you had many games. Some of them were just digital download codes inside of a box. Some of them were the gateway into downloading the full game on there. Games like Mortal Kombat 1, NBA 2K, third-party games. And it was just, it's either that or it's nothing. But at least with these digital game cartridges, like, I like them. And the main thing is, look at the price of some of these. If this is a way to get games cheaper on the platform, I'm all for it. Bravely Default HD is a $40 game that comes on a digital cartridge. Street Fighter 6 with Year 1 and 2 DLC is $60 on a digital cartridge. We have not seen a first-party Nintendo game that is $60 on the Switch 2 yet. And we might not, honestly, at least in the initial period, because they're obviously going to be doing some heavy gunner games. So if this is a way to give you some sort of level of ownership over a quote-unquote digital purchase, plus it allows games to be a little bit cheaper because companies can use this instead of using a larger cartridge size to try and cram everything on there, I think these are good. I think digital game cards are good. And I know there's going to be people that disagree with me, but I feel like the people that disagree with me are just stuck in this physical mindset. Everything needs to be physical. When it doesn't matter if you need a connection to the internet to play your console anyways. I own a physical copy of Gran Turismo 7. Guess what? If I don't have an online connection, I can't play that game. You know? I think this is good stuff. I like this. And you could worry about the future and, oh, what if the servers go off and stuff? Bro, we're going to be all dead in like 10 years. Like, let's call a spade here. All right? 25 years from now, if Nintendo takes down the servers, we will be dead. You going to leave your children, your physical game collection? They don't care. They don't want that. They want the Roblox. They want the Fortnite. But yes, you can say I'm defending something that I shouldn't be defending. I don't care. I do not care. This is just my opinion. And in my opinion, the digital game cards are good. They can keep prices lower. They can allow for more games to get onto the platform that wouldn't have come to the platform if they had to fit on a 64 gigabyte cartridge, it helps future-proof the platform when it comes to third-party games. And most importantly, it gives you some level of ownership versus a digital download of a game, because you have a cartridge that you can then sell. And plus, like, you can share that cartridge and stuff like that. Like, there are benefits to this. I think this needs to be celebrated. Good move, Nintendo. Now, drop the price of some games and some accessories, and we can talk a little bit nicer about you. Let me know what you think of this in the comments section down below. I'm sure there'll be people that disagree with me, but you're wrong. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Happy Easter. Later.